I feel my current mantra is to embody the fun. Because when you become serious, at least from my own experience, that's when the fixation of the story begins. So I've been reprogramming myself to let go and just surrender and embrace all of it.
It's like the greatest trust, isn't it? It's like that love has resolved all paradoxes.
Yes. So by acknowledging your emotions, therefore you give yourself guidance. Okay, this gives you guidance.
We are going to love whoever walks through that gate, no matter what.
Yeah.
And even if our humanity gets in the way of that judgment, that mantra will remind us, judge little, love lot.
But after acknowledging that, I understood a deeper aspect of myself. And that can be scary, but it's going into that because like we say fear, another acronym, we say that fear stands for false expectations appearing real.
There's a little boy that's walking along the beach, along the shoreline, and he sees starfish and he throws them in one by one. He's picking them up and throwing them in the water. And then another man is behind him and he sees this young boy throwing, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, I'm throwing the starfish back in the water so that, they don't die, right? So that they get..." And the man goes, "But the whole shoreline, there's millions and hundreds and thousands of starfish." He said, "You're not going to help them all." And he picks the one up and he goes, "But I've helped that one."
Okay. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming onto our
Thank you for
podcast.
coming onto our podcast.
Thank you for asking me.
We've been very excited
So
for a long
excited.
time.
Yeah.
And I just want to say once again, thank you, even whilst we're starting to get into it, for moving the podcast.
Oh,
we
that's
really
okay.
appreciate
Like,
it.
I know stuff happens and it's fine. Meant to be today.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, before Reki takes it away, she's going to introduce you a little bit and explain, some questions that we're going to be doing here today.
Yes.
Explain the layout, and then we'll kind of just have a conversation,
Yeah.
just as friends. Let's say today we're getting to know each other.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally just that.
3 friends hanging out.
Yeah. 3 friends.
Chatting.
Yeah. A beautiful yoga instructor.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But let's start at a point. So how's your day been today?
Today has been, well, I taught yoga, as you know. So yoga always, when I teach yoga, I drop into a different zone completely. So, yeah, I just feel really grounded today. And like I think I was sharing with you before that we've got a lot coming up in the next week, but it's just staying fully present and making sure that I enjoy each moment. But it's been good.
Oh,
We're looking forward to this.
December month, right?
Yeah, that energy that can
Yes.
be very
Like the theme for today in the yoga.
Yeah,
Yes.
like just let it be enough. We don't have to strive. We don't have to push. Just let whatever you choose to do be enough.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like you were saying, it's like some people love the Christmas festivities.
Yeah.
I find it a little bit hectic,
Me too.
to be honest.
The energy. I think if you're sensitive to energies, you either love what's going on or you actually shy away from it. And I'm kind of like shy away from it
Yes.
a little. Yeah.
Us too.
Yes.
So we're a little bit tongue-in-cheek, right? So we're going on a road trip so that we don't have to deal with the whole Christmas.
Yes, we are.
Well, we
We're
normally
packed up
do.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, our family normally head away over Christmas. We kind of get away from everyone and everybody. But this year, first Christmas for a long time, we're actually just staying put, but very chill. We don't do presents. It's time for us.
Yes. Nice.
You've got a lovely family.
Yes.
Yeah, I
So
do.
the ladies in the cafe, they're your
Yes.
daughters?
Yeah, yeah. And you might have seen, yeah,
There were 2 boys.
there were 2 boys.
Yes.
And the blonde one is my son, and then the other one, well, he's like an adopted son. He's come out from England for a year.
Right.
So,
bless.
2 boys and 4 girls.
Wow, big family.
Yes.
Big family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And number 7 too. Mm.
7?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's cool.
What about 7?
Nothing. It's just like, so like, for example, when we do like assisted psychotherapy ceremonies for individuals, we take them through like a 7-step process. And like a lot of different concepts and things like that, they're seen as the number 7.
Seven's
Yeah.
seen as the perfect,
Yes.
the perfect number.
The perfect number. Yeah.
I like 8.
Yes.
The
I like
infinity
9.
cycle.
Yeah.
I like 9. Happily incomplete, baby.
Yeah, eight is my. I've been told I'm not into it, but in the numerology, 8 is my number,
Really?
which apparently is abundance. So I'll take that anytime.
Wow. I like 11.
11.
Yeah. A meeting on the crossroads. It's like angel numbers. Are
Yeah.
you into angel numbers much?
Yeah,
Like
I don't know too much.
synchronicities?
Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but like when you look at your phone and it's 555, it's like
Synchronicity.
Or you message a friend, send them a voice message. It's like
11.
111.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's cool. No, I love it. So once again, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yes,
I feel we're going to have a lot of fun here today.
Yeah.
So would you like to take it away?
Of
Explain
course.
the trio and
Yes, of
we'll have some
course.
fun.
So I think I'll start at the beginning. So I'll just say a welcome back to our beautiful viewers to another episode of Unveiling Lives. And today our special guest is Rashida. So she, and myself and Rashi were known each other. I think we were discussing it before, and it seems that we've known each other since I was 19. So I'm currently 22, so that's about like 3 years.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. And it's beautiful too because myself and Rashi were introduced to each other through my mum. And as some of you guys already know, she does yoga. So that was quite beautiful because I got introduced into her with being able to ritualize my mind, body, and spirit in a different way. And I feel for myself personally, that was a huge start of my growth, my journey. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you want to take us into the first question?
Of course. So as the viewers know, so we usually start with the infinite trio. So the first question that we ask on the infinite trio is what brought you to the table? So that can be answered in multiple different ways. So I'll assist you there with some guidance just so that you can see how you want to flow with it. Sure. So like, for example, some people like to explain their journey from like different pivotal points that shape them who they are today. Some people come back to their purpose, mission, or reason. It's completely up to whatever you feel. You can go as deep as you want to. Yeah.
In the last podcast, we
Yes.
had, who was on the last one? Alistair.
Yes.
Yeah. So he went back to all the way to his childhood.
Yes.
And he basically ran through how he, let's say what his symptoms in life were with in regards to the fear that he sat with, or he sat with greater questions in life. And he went on this hero's journey, so to
Yes.
speak, whereby he found a certain modality of
Yes.
work, which then, brought him to the table in this moment here now. So
Yeah.
however you wish, you can take it from there.
Wow. Gosh, my mind was going as you were just describing the different ways people answer it.
Yes.
So what brought me to this table? Good question. So I was born in East Africa,
Yes.
but parents emigrated to England when I was a baby. So, for I guess for us to have a better education, for us to, thrive. And my journey, like I had the best childhood.
Yes.
Like, if we were to look, kind of zoom out, and my parents, we didn't want for anything. Hindsight's always a great thing, right? When we look back on our life, and I can see how much my parents sacrificed for me and my brother. I have an older brother. And they sacrificed a lot for us to have a really good education, for us to go to university and all of that. Yet, that obviously comes at a price.
Yes.
They worked hard and gave us their best. But all through my life, it was almost like there was just something that, like, the missing piece of the
Yes.
jigsaw,
Yes.
and I could feel it. I didn't know what it was, and I,
It's
looking,
like, what's that something?
yeah, what's that something
Yeah.
that I keep that I don't have, that is either causing a disconnect or a block.
Yes.
And I had no idea or had no awareness of anything at that point. Yet I could feel it in my body that there was just something that either seeking or striving for, but I didn't know what that was, right?
Yes.
And then, to, I guess, fast forward, I was in my 20s, and during my teen years, there was a lot of, I guess, felt like I didn't fit in, low self-esteem, really poor self-worth.
On the outskirts.
Within me.
Yeah.
Although people on the outskirts, I did what I guess the expectation of doing well at school, getting good grades, going to uni, getting my degree, getting a job, got a management job, what the matrix, I guess, the expectations of the matrix.
Yes.
I knew that I didn't fit into the matrix.
Yes.
So I knew, and maybe that was a disconnect, even as I'm talking to you. Maybe that was what I was like, this is good, but there's something still missing.
There has to be something more than just the rat race.
Yes.
Yeah. And so got to a point where, I married the first person that showed me any love because I guess, looking back, because I didn't love myself. And so that validated that, I am lovable. And was very broken when I got married. I got married at 23.
Wow. That's
very young.
Very young.
Yeah, very
very
young. But I was needy.
Yes.
I was very needy. And I guess, outwardly, I was successful.
Yes.
So my first marriage, I had 3 children, and the relationship ended. And I then got married very quickly again to a beautiful man, had another child. And unfortunately, when my 4th child was a baby, he was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh,
and
bless.
Sorry to hear.
It was quite a dark journey because he passed away.
Yes.
How old were you when he was born?
When my husband passed away, or when
Who was diagnosed with cancer?
my husband.
Okay.
Your
the
husband.
Yeah, sorry, my second husband was diagnosed with cancer, and so my 4th child was just a baby,
Yes.
not even
Yeah.
one. And then was the journey, of the treatment of cancer. We thought it was going well, but then came back quite aggressively, and then was left with 4 children under the age of 8.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
And 2 marriages, right?
Yes.
So at that point, they say the dark soul of the night.
Yes.
Yeah, dark night of the soul.
Night of the soul.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
that was
Yeah, you're lost in the midst of,
just like,
this illusion of life,
Yeah.
no meaning.
Yes.
no meaning, and
Yeah.
so angry as to, that whole, and, it's ego, victim, whatever you want to call it. But why me?
Yes.
What
Yeah.
have I done? I'm a good person, but was found in this situation where I was probably just at my worst, but I had 4 children. And
Yes.
it was my 4 children that I guess kept me going.
Yes.
And I remember lying on the bed one night and was so angry with, the divine, God, universe, whatever word you want to use. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why? And then immediately it was like an instant I heard, wait a little longer, I've got you.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, whatever, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's my
Yes.
mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
I how wait a little longer,
Yes.
seriously. Within a week, and only a higher power could have organised this. Within a week, I met my current husband.
Oh.
And he was in
Beautiful.
Queensland and I was in South Australia.
Yes.
So the logistics of it all happening.
Coincidence, right?
Yeah. Synchronicity.
Yeah.
Coincidence, never a coincidence. So why I'm sharing that is coming as to why I'm here was when I met my current husband, Alex, was the first time I felt safe.
Well, okay.
And I hadn't dealt with any of my trauma. And I, little T's, big T's, I had the best childhood. My
Yes.
parents, we didn't want for anything, yet there were little cracks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which happen,
Lack of nurturing or not being present.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
We, through the eyes of a child are big cracks.
Yes.
But as we grow older, we, those stories we justify if we don't deal with them.
Yes.
And so I remember we were driving and We just got married. I'd moved to Queensland, didn't know anyone, lost all my support network. And we were driving, and I can't remember what the incident was, but I was having some sort of meltdown, right? And because I hadn't dealt with any stuff, I had a lot of baggage. And I was trying to get out of the car and it was moving. And my husband, in his wisdom, drove me straight to the doctors and said, you need to see someone. I'm like, no, please don't, because I was a pharmacist and I was working at the pharmacy next door, and the shame was like they'll see me like as because outwardly I was successful, right? I was smashing life.
Yes.
You know, successful pharmacist, beautiful family.
It still felt empty.
Inward, I was a mess, like so, which nobody saw, right? Because we hide that side of us. Took me to the doctors, and the shame was just like real. And the receptionist, in her wisdom, because I was well known, put me in a private room and said, the doctor will see you. Just wait there, you're good. Actually, I was feeling a bit emotional saying that.
Oh, bless. That's beautiful.
Because it's such a powerful moment. It was like the pivot in my life. And I remember sitting in front of this doctor who knew me as a pharmacist, and we were talking about stuff, and I said, I don't even know what's wrong with me. And she said to me, and I laugh about it now, she said, have you ever tried yoga? And I just wanted to punch her in the face. And I was like, here I am having a meltdown, and you're telling me go to a yoga class.
Yes.
So anyway, I came out of that just thinking, well, that was a waste of time, and didn't medicate me. She was not a doctor that went straight to medication. She wanted to try everything first.
So more holistic.
Yes.
And I thank her for that, because literally a week later, one of my friends said to me, you want to come to a yoga class? And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
And I was a very high energy person. I was a runner. I was cardio because it kept my mind busy.
That's that CEO side, right?
Yes.
Right. Didn't want
It's
to
the Queen CEO side.
Yes, right. Yeah, that's right. Didn't want to sit still with myself because I didn't like what might come up.
Yes.
So active, busy, do. Anyway, I did go to the class just because she was my friend and I wanted to keep her company, and had no idea what I was doing. I was not present at all. I was looking around. I was in my tracky dacks and T-shirt. But what got me, and this is why I'm at the table, is the breath.
Okay.
So the moment the instructor cued the breath, and cued the breath a lot, it was like, wow, I'm back in my body.
Yeah,
I'm not out there.
Yes.
And so continued to go to yoga purely for the breath.
Yes.
It was the breath that got me. It was like I'd landed back home and I felt safe in my body. And then from that moment, it was when I could really start to unpack everything that I just pushed down.
And pushing it down, that's where depression then comes from, isn't it?
Suppressed
Because suppressed
emotions.
emotion
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. So then you found yoga, you found breath.
Yes.
That
was the jigsaw piece, breath.
The breath was the jigsaw piece, but then that led me to the other missing pieces, which I didn't think that I had. So my entry was not yoga. I actually studied mindfulness and meditation first.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So did some training on that, and then everyone was telling me, you should do your yoga teacher training, you should do your yoga teacher. And I'm like, no, no. And then anyway, I remember thinking, maybe there is a journey on this in healing, never to teach, just my own healing journey. And I remember on the day I asked for, okay, show me. If you want me to do this, I'd had many signs, but we always want another sign, right?
Yes.
And I went to a yoga class, and it was my very first yoga teacher that had actually left that studio that had actually come to the class as a student. And she said, hey, have you got time to meet for a coffee after? And I said, yeah, let's go. And so we're standing in the line waiting to order our coffee, and she said to me, hey, have you ever thought about doing your yoga teacher training? And I thought, okay.
Wow. Yeah, that's the last sign that I needed to do it.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Wow. That
Where she asked you that?
2015 I started my training.
Wow.
So nearly 10 years ago next year.
Yeah, it will be March.
Yeah.
A
End of
decade.
February. Yeah, it'll be,
Wow.
when I started the journey,
So it's been a decade since you started your healing journey.
properly.
In essence.
In its entirety, absolutely.
So what did you then find unfold for yourself? What was then the the crux of the matter of, the asking of the question. It's like, why me? What is it? The self-love.
Yeah.
Because you started to be more present,
Yes.
So for us, we, for instance, say it's active listening to yourself by being present with yourself.
And we explain as non-violent communication.
Yeah. Non-violent communication.
To yourself.
Yeah, to yourself.
To yourself. Yeah.
So in other words, through active listening, we have a modality which we work through. So we call it PRA. So it's presence, reflection, and an acknowledgement. So then you utilize that with another person as well, or with yourself.
Yeah.
But then in essence, that drops you into the emotional state. And then it will take you to, well, for some people, it's just a thought form. For others, would be emotional.
Yes.
So how did you then find the yoga and the breath plus the meditation?
Yes, and feeling safe as well in yourself.
Yeah. So for me, the yoga and the breath and the meditation in combination allowed me to get to a point where I felt safe to unpack. So I was in a state, I guess, of calm, in a state of inner and outer peace that I actually could sit and unpack. And there's something called the koshas, which it sounds similar to your
the PRA.
PRA, which is when an emotion comes up, whether it's let's just use the word positive and negative. No emotions are positive and negative, but for argument's sake, we don't often explore the joyful, happy emotions because they kind of take care of themselves.
Yes.
But when a heightened emotion comes up, it allowed me to notice where I felt it in my body. So it's called the koshas. So the physical, where do I feel it? Usually my gut for me or my heart. And then the journey inwards. Okay, so the physical sensation is that. How's my energy level feeling? Okay, that actually really just drains me. Like I'm depleted of energy or I'm heightened, I'm hyper, right?
Yes.
And then the third layer is, okay, what's the feeling that's going with that? I'm feeling quite anxious and overwhelmed right now. So most people float between those three layers, which I did,
agree.
right?
Yes.
And then time will eventually bring them back out and you're fine. And then they'll float back in and out. Okay, feel the sensation. Drain of energy, anxiety, okay, time. But for me, the crux of it was, which yoga and mindfulness helped me, was what's the wisdom behind what I'm feeling?
That's it.
Gnosis, knowledge of the heart.
Yeah, what is going on for me? And so going into that fourth layer then allowed me to go into the fifth layer, which is the bliss state. So once you've got the knowledge of the why,
Yes.
it actually brings so much peace because when it happens again, it's like, right.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way you word that.
It's like it's one thing to have the knowledge of it. It's like, for instance, we spoke about PRA before. It's one thing to have the tools and know how to navigate it. It's a whole nother thing to embody it, to actually put it into practice. It's like we have a friend that just recently said the most beautiful quote, and we were in a ceremony with her. And she said, knowledge is like knowing that a tomato is a fruit, right? But wisdom, which is the embodiment of knowledge, is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad.
Yeah, right. Yes, I love that analogy. So good.
cool, eh?
I think I'll use that one. Yeah, it's a great one. But it is. It's like I say to my students, you see people that do course after course after course, and they have the knowledge, but so knowledge without application is actually useless. Knowledge with application is the wisdom.
Yes, and that's the actioning of that application.
Yeah.
Because it's really going to be integration of it that'll bring inspired action.
Which then brings fulfillment.
Yeah.
And such a peace. And I think the more you do whichever modality you're using is when you then start to build that new neural pathway so that you can then fast track it. So the sensation, and then you're straight into, straight into the peace. You don't have to actually work the steps that I just said.
I agree.
It's like you're building a completely new neural pathway.
I completely agree. Because that's the key of all keys. It's like Ram Dass says it, Eckhart Tolle says it. It's like be in the now.
Be in the now.
The answer's in it's here now.
Nowhere, now here.
Well, it's like the beautiful meditation that we played just recently by Ram Dass. He says, I am loving awareness. That's the space that we all strive to be in, you know. And I know all three of us sitting at the table now, we are. But it's we have an ebb and a flow. And it'll be up and down, we'll be in and out. But we don't, I agree with you completely. We don't necessarily have to, as we go into the emotion, go into the story side of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so, because it'll always take us back. There will be something else to figure out, so to speak. But do you feel there's still wisdom to be gained, keeping in mind what wisdom is from what we spoke about?
Yes.
Wisdom to be gained from, you know, acknowledging the emotion and then seeing where in a core memory the emotion might take me?
Yeah, the BS, the belief system.
I can put it in a different way for you if you would like to.
Yeah, just give me a different way. I think I've got it, but just give me a different example.
Because let's say you had a beautiful moment there that you just shared, and thank you for sharing as well.
Yes,
you know,
thanks for being vulnerable as well.
Yeah, the vulnerability speaks volumes of your character. To be able to go into the practice and then sit there in the private room and, you know, actually feel seen and heard by someone.
Yes.
And then that by being seen and heard, I can actually start to acknowledge my emotion. You know? So then by acknowledging the emotion, for some people, it tends to take them back.
To the story.
To the story.
Yes.
Or let's say their past.
The tale, we like to call it.
Yeah. Or in, you know, general terms, the timeline.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
So then there's certain things that we go through that I experienced that, let's say, caused me to feel the way that I did when I was older, you know? So did you ever then go back into your childhood to acknowledge the deeper emotions of why you felt like you did, about the why?
Yes. I have. I have done that. And for me to do that was purely because I wanted an understanding of it. I think I understand your question. I don't feel we have to relive the trauma again.
I agree.
Okay, awesome.
We don't have to keep going back there, because I think the awareness of if you understand as to why it took you there, then I think that's enough, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in other words, all we do is acknowledge the teaching.
Acknowledge the teaching.
Yeah.
And take the gifts from the teaching.
That's it, you know. It's like, for instance, we were working with a lady just recently as well, and a gentleman.
Yes.
And they're obviously, I'm not naming names or anything like that, but it was all about father wound and mother wound.
Yes.
You know.
Big stuff.
So then at the end of the day, it's either a father wound or a father teaching.
Yes.
You know, and likewise goes with the mum.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, in essence, you would say then that's what you've done for yourself through breath and practice of being present.
Yes, and I guess a lot of other, I don't want to say the word courses, but a lot of other modalities where it's allowed me actually to, you know, so let me give you an example. Examples are always good. So, you know, my biggest core wound is abandonment and rejection.
Yes.
Like biggest core wound. And you know, the little crack of the little trauma of, like, my parents didn't abandon or reject me.
Yes.
But because they had to work so hard to get ahead in life because they were immigrants, right? I was left alone by myself. And so through the eyes of a child, we could say that the child felt abandoned. That she wasn't in any means.
But she still felt that way.
She felt that through the eyes of a child.
And that's what we remember. It's not what they
Right.
did.
Yes.
It's how they
Yeah.
made us feel.
Yes.
But until we have the awareness of it, as I was going through my teenage years and even my early 20s, any perceived situation where I felt abandoned and rejected, and it could be somebody not responding to me in a text or something,
Yes.
because I didn't have the awareness that that was my wound, it justified the story that I wasn't lovable.
Yes.
Was there a pinnacle moment when you acknowledged that wound?
Yeah, so through the yoga was the entry point, the mindfulness was the entry point of being able to actually come to some understanding. That's why I'm such a people pleaser.
Yes.
Right? That's why I
Big one.
constantly
Yes.
will do whatever I can do for you, to the sacrifice of myself,
Yes.
to get your validation. Now I don't do that anymore.
You cut it.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm curious. How did you cut it?
Yeah, tell us.
Because myself and Rekiah as well, also people-pleasing tendencies.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an aspect of the narcissistic tendencies that we all have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's say make it about ourselves so much to the detriment to of ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. But how did you cut that?
How did I cut it?
I'm curious.
because I think because yoga and mindfulness and some other modalities and breath has helped me become so aware of my body, like almost like, so sensitive to body, mind and soul connection.
Yes.
It's like you said, gut, heart,
and
brain
coherence.
and they come into coherence.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, all in coherence. And so when you get to know yourself to that extreme, when the intention behind what you do is not impurity.
Yes.
And it might be just 1 degree off, but you know that I'm just going over and above here and I'm sacrificing myself. And actually, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need your validation. I don't need your love. I need to give that to myself. And so outwardly, I'm still, I guess people will still see me. My gifts are love and service for sure. And that hasn't changed. But the intention behind what I do, I guess, has, because I monitor.
Yes.
Am I doing this because I want to? Am I doing this because I feel that that's the expectation?
I love
And that comes back to ritualizing it.
Yeah.
Which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see
And so I'm okay. Actually, I actually don't need to go to that Christmas party. And whatever your judgment is of me by not going is actually none of my business.
Yes.
I'm okay with not going because it's not in alignment.
At the end of the day, if someone judges you, they're really
They're
judging
judging
themselves
themselves.
too.
Yeah.
No, I hear you loud and clear. So in essence, you're connecting to, is it really something that I want to do? Or am I doing it because of previous conditioning?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then from that space of going, okay, so my intention then with this might be pure, then I do it because I feel it.
Yeah.
But if I don't feel it, I put my boundaries in place, you know?
Yeah.
So then boundaries might either be assertive or they might be compassionate, you know?
Yes.
Have you ever thought about it in that way?
Yeah, I like that. I was processing that as you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And always with love.
Yes.
Always with
so
love.
whatever it
Yes.
is always with love.
Non-violent,
Yes.
Yeah.
of course, but I can still speak my truth in an assertive way, you know?
Yeah.
Let's say,
We call it the ABCs.
yeah,
So we say that the A stands for authentically assertive, B is beautifully balanced, and then C is compassionately caring. So
Yeah,
when
I
you're
love it.
beautifully balanced, you therefore use authentically assertive and caring, compassionate.
Yeah, I love that.
because caring
Yeah.
compassionate you can feel there might not be a connection there.
Yes.
And then it's not even worth even having the conversation.
You come back to trusting that intuition,
That's it.
Yeah.
which lies in the gut.
Because what I was doing, like in the people pleasing mode, when I was firstly I was sacrificing myself for sure, but I was also, maybe look at it from these eyes, I was actually enabling the other person's behaviour to continue, which wasn't nourishing.
Yes.
So there was
Yes.
this dance going on. I was giving, and enabling them to remain as they were and doing them a disservice as well.
I
Yes.
agree,
Yeah, I agree.
because coming to speak your truth as well might be exactly what that person needs as well, you know?
To break the pattern.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said, you've really stepped into a service-centered approach in your life, you know? If I might take a moment to just explain what I mean by
please.
service-centered.
Yeah.
So let's say we would all have tendencies, you know? So on one end of the spectrum, at least with the work that we do, it's our way of understanding it. People-pleasing would be on one side. And then on the other side would be the narcissistic tendencies, you know. But really they're the same thing in
Yes,
essence,
yes.
you know. So let's say narcissistic tendencies on this side would be that I make it so much about myself that it's to the detriment of other people, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other end of the spectrum would be I make it so much about myself that it's to the detriment of myself,
Yeah.
you know. But we need both, don't we?
Yes,
You
we
know?
do need both.
Yeah,
Yes.
I need to be able to actually make it about myself.
Yeah.
So I need these tendencies.
Yeah.
But then I also, there's a healthy level of care
Yes.
for my communities. You
Which
know?
is the generative principle.
yeah.
yeah.
Because without community,
Yeah.
without community, what would the purpose be anyway? If it's just you here.
That's right. Yeah. There wouldn't be any purpose at
There
all.
wouldn't.
So absolutely that fine balance of
So then you've stepped into complete service-centered approach then. And let's say, so you do yoga. What else do you do in the current day in terms of practices? Because we had a nice little conversation before. Is that something you'd like to share?
yeah. So I guess, from Rekiah bringing to my attention that it's been 10 years since I entered that. Which I was like, we should have a celebration next year.
Yeah, we should.
Anniversary.
That could be our
celebrate
Christmas
with
party.
Is I've delved deeper. So, you know, as you both know, that I do yoga teacher training.
Yes.
So once I did my teacher training, I never did it to become a teacher. It was never, ever my intention. It was a healing journey. But it was so powerful for me that I wanted to share that, and hence started teaching yoga and mindfulness. And then, offering now the trainings, accredited trainings. But I guess the yoga teacher training scratched the surface.
Yes.
It allowed the entry point to start the healing. And then started exploring for me, not to teach, but for me to actually, you know what, the koshas that I just described, I want to actually understand that more, you know, what's going on in my body when that happens.
Yes.
And so, started doing some learnings around that. And for me, because I'm a pharmacist, still very little in pharmacy, edging my way out, I still feel that I can bring good there, which is why I'm still there. For me, the whole exploration of spirituality and science, so the biology and the science, and then bringing it to the Eastern principles of the spirituality.
Yes.
And so the learnings around how can I offer that to people? So for mindfulness and meditation, we bring the mind on board, right?
Yes.
And I can give people tools, et cetera, and even the yoga, we can do a physical practice and you feel good afterwards. But if you don't deal with the core wound or the trauma, or the body that's still holding the trauma.
That's holding score.
The Body Holds the Score. It's a great book. It's incomplete, right? It's totally incomplete. So for me,
it's not embodied.
It's not embodied, right? And so we're missing, which is why when people go and have massages or have Reiki or kinesiology, right, they feel good afterwards.
Yes.
But we are just clearing energy. We're not actually dealing with the
core.
And so for me, over the years, I've found with people that come and see me that when I use both of them, we're actually going right to the artery that is causing the bleed.
What would you say, because you've worked with plenty of people up until point. Yeah.
10 years of it.
10 years of it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What would you say that is for everyone? That core that we unravel, you know? It's like the way that we like to describe it is a lack of self-love.
Yes.
You know?
It's that I just can't love myself and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And that is the condition we put on ourselves as a human being.
But it could even go even further than that, and even deeper.
Yes.
You know? Would you feel it's, for most people, it's more of an existential thing?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the word existential? You understand what it means?
Yeah.
So let's say it's higher questions with regards to why are we here?
Yes.
You know, for instance, we get born into this game, a game of life on earth, you know, where we come through to experience something called the human condition.
Yes.
So we're a human being, but then all along the way we sit with that feeling.
Yes.
Have you found that is that what people are really sitting with, or what do you feel it is? What have you found through your practice and working with yourself?
So through my practice and also working with other people, I think probably 95%, if not more, that core that I'm talking about is the self-love, the lack of, or the lack of self-worth. If we boil it right down, on the surface it might not appear as that. It might appear or present as a different, emotion or symptom.
Yes.
But when I work with people, it usually boils down to self-worth.
Yes.
On some level, right? And then that's what I usually then explore as to why. And I love we're born into this world and like the game of life.
Yes.
And for a lot of us, we're in the game. We're in the game on that screen being took. But when you take the joystick
yes.
and you start to control the game or maneuver the game, let's just say.
You learn the rules of engagement.
Right. And so be the joystick rather than be in the game and let life control you. And I think for me
I love it.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful.
What would you say taking the joystick is symbolic of?
taking your power back.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
And that's embodiment.
Yeah.
Taking your power back. Yeah.
So in other words, actually, let's say, what would the day-to-day be? Actually taking care of yourself, you
Yes.
know? It's like, because we say lack of self-love, you know? Would you say then taking the joystick and taking your power back is actually, how do we refer to it? We say SLR.
Yeah, we say
right?
SLR.
So we say
I love all your little.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. People love it in session, but it's
Yeah.
really easy to understand.
Yes.
But it's self-love regulation. You
Yeah.
know? It's
And yeah, so you simply with SLR, it's like you bring safety to yourself, therefore you respect yourself, therefore you nurture the love within.
Yeah.
And
And then how do you, like, I'm curious, because for me, yoga and mindfulness allowed me to, because if you're unaware of your body, right, you don't even know. So with that, then how do you get people to that point where, so for me, I check in multiple times. I'm not even thinking about it. It's like, what's the most self-loving thing I can do? Or if I'm feeling like out of alignment, okay, what does my body need? What does my mind need? What does my soul need? And then I bring it into alignment.
Yes.
So how do you give that to people who have no idea, they're so dysregulated?
Well, how do we normally do it? So let's say first and foremost, we
question.
We approach it from a standpoint where, you know, we don't help people. And I know you are in the same boat. We assist people.
Yes.
We can't help anyone.
Yeah.
You know, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make the
make
horse
it
drink
drink.
of the water.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing as you said before. It's I provide them with the teacher training.
Yes.
I provide them with the practices, and through the
Yeah.
practices, they find their own tools.
And that's
you
their
know?
sadhana, which they ritualize.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a sadhana.
Yeah.
A great word. I
Yes.
love it. But then really, would you say it's as simple as being seen and heard?
Being seen and heard and stepping into being authentic. Because as you know, you may be already aware, but on the Spain scale, love is not actually the highest frequency.
No.
Authenticity is.
Yeah.
So it's coming back to the authenticity and being vulnerable and being seen and heard by acknowledging your emotions within. And then and therefore then it reflects into your outer reality. You become a co-creator.
Because I think I feel that, you know, through the work that we do as well,
Yes.
and talking with people, and when we sit down, it really is when they're able to go back
Yes.
and acknowledge what happened for them and the way that they felt and the way that they feel in the current moment now allows them the freedom to acknowledge it all as teachings.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
because the second we see it as teachings, there's a sense of freedom that comes from
Yes.
it, you know, where it's like, oh, so what happened to me? Let's say maybe something of a bigger T, you know, capital T might have
Yes.
happened, you know, potentially an abuse of some sort.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it's like, what do they do? Typically, we sit with it and we say, oh, okay, there's confusion within myself, or from this confusion, then there's a dysregulation of my emotions.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
the depressed emotion, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but then at some point, they have to ask themselves, it's like, who do they forgive for what happened? What would your take be?
On the healing of other people?
Let's say they were abused in some kind of a
Yeah.
way, just as an example of the
Yes.
regulating of their energy.
Yeah.
You know, who would they forgive? Would they forgive the perpetrator, or who would they forgive for what happened to them?
That's a great question. Love
And there's
that
no
question.
wrong
Yeah,
answer.
love that question. Yeah, so for me, I guess if I were to lead someone through or facilitate someone through their journey, and let's just use that as the example, is again like, you know, and context, you know, it depends on the person as well, but again, they don't have to relive the trauma of it.
I agree.
But the awareness of as to why it's presented in the way that they're living now helps. So to take them there and to feel and to allow them to actually feel angry.
Yes.
I agree.
And by doing that, they therefore forgive themselves.
Right. Yeah. And so the emotions that are being suppressed or pushed down need to
Come on.
they need to have a voice.
Yes.
And something that I do, especially with victims of abuse, or I like to call them victims, whatever we want to call them, is to actually meet in a safe place with their, not physically meet, but across the airways, energetically meet with the person if they're open to, and to say everything that they need to say to them that they haven't got to say, and then to listen if the perpetrator has anything to say back.
I love it. So in other words, if I may, so they really are saying it to themselves
Yes.
to
Yeah,
hear it,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
Yes. Because it's all you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, right. Yes.
But also to themselves in the way to actually hear themselves.
Yes.
So then we can say they would be actually forgiving themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Giving themselves, and also to take the because there's so many gifts and treasures that we sometimes bypass from the most challenging and big T moments of
Yes.
our life, that we don't, everything that happened to me at the time, when you're in it, you don't see it. But
Yes.
when you actually, or if you have someone that can facilitate you through it, actually, it's made me more resilient.
Yes.
Despite, having been separated and widowed, I'm still able to love again.
Yes.
And the gifts of resilience and the strengths that everything that I've been through is to take those and the essence of who I am,
Yes.
I guess.
I love that. I love that. And it takes true strength to say something like that
Yes.
as well, and to embody it.
Yeah.
You know? Because I can't even imagine the pain that we would have had to go through being widowed as well, and all the other happenings that happen as well. So then, you alchemize it through actually acknowledging. It's like, I'm actually allowed to be, part of my French, I'm going to swear, but fucking angry.
Yes.
I'm allowed to
Absolutely.
to feel that.
Of course. Why shouldn't you feel angry if you've been abused, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's a normal
And
emotion.
and then it's through feeling that, but not necessarily blaming anyone. Right? That then cuts the drama triangle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then from there, I focus on my mind, body, and spiritual connection with myself.
Yeah,
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lady called Byron Katie.
Yes, very familiar.
So she does a lot of like the turnaround, and she does a lot with people working with their perpetrators, and just highlights. She alchemizes it basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And flips it round to actually, these are beautiful gifts that
Yes.
are given to you.
It's like it's almost like we were talking before about the human condition. Right? We get born in this game called life, where we experience the human condition. It's like the whole theme all throughout. I don't know if I know I'm very handsy.
Yes,
Sorry.
me too.
Hyperactive. But we can say the whole theme throughout is almost like a dual state. You know?
Yes. It's
like
the opposites.
Yeah, we find ourselves in duality. There's good, there's evil.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
of
know?
course, yeah.
Which evils just live
Yes,
backwards at
backwards.
the end of the day as well.
I like that. Haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
You can use that too, Rashi.
I got heaps, Rashi.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
But it's like that's where we find ourselves, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
duality, and part of me for taking it a little bit more above the chessboard.
Yeah.
But it really is in alchemizing my darkness where I learn to see the light.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, do you
Yes, yeah.
feel? And this is a question from me to you. Do you feel then we find true purpose through alchemizing these emotions?
Yeah. So Sanskrit, they call it your Dharma, your
Yes.
gifting. Yeah.
I
what
read
is it?
Dharma in your response.
Oh, did I write it? Okay. Yeah. What
I
is
was waiting
your
for Dharma.
Yeah.
Ding ding.
Ding ding. We hit it. Yeah. What is your gifting? So everything, even up until this point, as we're talking present day on whatever 6th of December it is, at whatever time it is, everything is bringing me to being able to live my Dharma, to
Yes.
live my gifting. And there's a phrase in one of the holy books which says, the comfort that has been shown you, you will show another. And for me, that is, through all the dark moments and then the light moments and then the alchemizing of
Yes.
them, there is no coincidence that someone in front of me is going through the beginning of that journey.
Yes.
And now I'm able to give them the comfort that was shown to me to
I love
facilitate.
that.
Yes.
I love that.
It's not wasted. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's like with our company, SacredCo, we have let's say our mantra, so to
Yes.
speak. What's the other word for it? I'm going blank.
Yeah,
now.
mantra.
It's like our mantra.
Yeah.
It's learn, action, and teach. So in essence, learning is remembering something that you already know, and that happens through the alchemizing.
Yes.
Action is showing others that you know, And then teaching is showing others that you know that they already know too.
Yeah.
And that's it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's alchemizing,
Your example.
your pain to be the example of the change that you wish to see. And then from there they can take it or not, you know.
Yeah.
But I hear you. So then that becomes your Dharma. It's to what then? To get to know yourself more and more
Yes.
and be present?
Are you asking me if that's my Dharma?
Yes. If I were to put like a heading to it.
Oh, put a heading to my Dharma.
Because I made mine cool. I said, to
Yeah, what's
unlock
yours?
the mysteries of the universe.
Oh, wow. I love that. Actually, just backtracking a bit with the Dharma, it was like what you were sharing about how you, then teach it is in the medical profession, they have most health professions in the Western world, they have what's called, and I might get it wrong, but it's like a 3-step process where it's like they get taught, so they observe it, then they do it, so it's hands-on, and then they teach it.
Okay.
And then that's the embodiment of the 3.
So it's like observe, action, and teach.
Yeah, literally, yeah. OAT.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go on.
You got an acronym.
Oh, it could be catchy. So what's mine in a heading? What was yours again?
so we'll do yours as well.
Yeah.
You have one, right?
Oh, I'm thinking about
She's
it.
going to make
Okay,
one.
go.
of it.
I'm feeling into it.
Think about it.
Thinking.
So I'll give some backstory around mine. So you asked me right at the start of the podcast, you said, okay, do you want to be called Shane or Hermes? And I know I went on a nice little spree there. I could have just said Hermes, would have been perfect. I would say that for myself personally, I went through the same thing as anyone else goes
Yes.
through. You know, there would have been as per example, a wounding in my childhood. And I carried that with me, and I was asking deeper, greater questions, you know, what's going on? Why do I feel the way that I do? I feel numb to life. There has to be more to life than just this, you know. Exact same as you. I could start something even at a young age, 19, 20, I could start little businesses and I could make all the money that I wanted to make. And I knew that for me to get and reach success in the rat race terms, all I had to do was start it and persist with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's it. And it happens, you know, it almost unravels itself. But that wasn't enough,
Yeah.
you know. So then I found myself going into different avenues, you know, holistic, all of the above, you know, speak about this mountain, it's meditation, yoga, you name it, any modality. My main one, as you know, and obviously the people watching this knows, that I utilize psychedelics to assist me on that path as well. And I found a sense of peace to rest with my symptoms. So what happened to me in my past and so forth. You know, my capital T and the smaller T's as well. But yet I yearned for something more, you know. And where I found that was through diving into what's called esoterics. Have you heard of esoterics
Heard of
before?
esoteric.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's say there's many different sections of esoteric.
Schools of thought.
Schools of thought, right? And esoterics means hidden knowledge.
Yeah.
So secret teachings of all ages, such as, you know, from the great Pythagoras or Plato, Aristotle.
Yes.
Hermes Trismegistus is one of them, and they refer to him as the Trice-Great. Now, I just adopted the name Hermes because of veneration, you know, so I think it's a very beautiful deity to look at, not pray to, but learn from and gain the concept. So then from there, I found a sense of joy and fun in diving into these things, because the more I learn from it, so in other, you know, learn, action, teach, the more I can bring it into my work and actually assist others to reach a state of fulfillment, you know, when they meet me halfway. You know, I can't help anyone, so to speak. So then from there, I went and I said, to unlock the mysteries of the universe, because I love losing myself in old books, you know, Sanskrit books, Nag Hammadi texts and so forth. So that's mine. A little story there.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
You like
I love it.
What about you?
Oh, it might be. I was like feeling into it just then. And it's like, I feel my current mantra is to embody the fun. Because when you become serious, at least from my own experience, that's when the vexation or the story begins. So I've been reprogramming myself to let go and just surrender and embrace all of it. And that's something I therefore acknowledge through going into epigenetics and acknowledging those big T's and the small T's, the trauma.
And epigenetics being the environment that you were raised in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that also comes back to the way that I was raising myself within my environment. Because that's where it stems from in the reflection.
I love that.
Yeah.
So then what would the Rashis be?
Yeah, gosh, I love both of yours.
Oh,
Yes.
bless.
I do. I love them both. I guess for me, like, I am so hungry just to learn more.
Yes.
Like, I'm so hungry to learn more, and I don't have any. And I think I wrote it in some of my questions, was that I love to pull from here, there, here. I don't have any limits on if it resonates with me. It doesn't matter what religion, what philosophy, what lineage. If it hits me, I feel the hit of it, and I think, wow, I love that concept. And so when people ask me, well, what, it's like I don't really have a banner that I come under, because I pull from all different lineages, different schools of thought.
Yes.
And then I guess my gifting is to bring those together, spirituality, science, but to deliver it in a way that is relevant to people today.
I agree.
And to love people without any agenda.
Yes,
Which sometimes it's
unconditionally.
hard, right? It's hard because your humanity wants to judge, and your humanity, I always have to check myself. Is there an agenda in this? Is there, but yeah, to love and to serve without any conditions is what I strive to be. And yeah, do I stuff up at times? Of course I do.
Yes.
But I guess if I were to put a heading on it, is to, by doing that, I think it has the ripple effect that my biggest, I think, legacy, if I want to leave behind, is to help facilitate, not do for, but to facilitate people to live a life of passion and purpose, whatever that means for them.
Yes.
I love that.
And I think that's beautiful too, because you're speaking about your eulogy there. And that's an aspect of one of the questions.
Nice
and
segue.
I know it. And I love the way too that you responded in those questions, because you actually took it even deeper. And it's something you did with your family.
I know, right? That's powerful.
So I would love for you to share that journey as well, because that really is, because we speak about the ego. And we speak about our acronym for ego is edging guidance out. So by acknowledging your emotions, therefore you give yourself guidance. Okay, this gives you guidance.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share about how all these teachings that we speak about now and your eulogy, how you were able to bring that example to your family in that moment.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. Sometimes when I've shared it with people, I get these weird looks like, you did that with your children? And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's not cool.
I thought it was awesome.
I thought it was awesome.
Actually.
We told Maverick this morning, well, he was like, this is awesome.
I want to do it with my dad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful experience. I think we actually underestimated how powerful it would be.
Yeah.
And our kids were young at the time. I think my youngest was, a few years ago. So my youngest at the moment, she'll be 16 next year. So she was early teens maybe.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember how it started. It was actually my husband who suggested it.
Oh, Alex, awesome.
Yeah. And we were talking about, I think we were kind of talking about how, at funerals you hear people say wonderful things about, da-da-da-da. I said, why can't we say, often we don't say those things to people when they're alive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. I laugh about it because we have in our house, we have it's upstairs, downstairs, and the kids are all upstairs and they have their own kitchen.
Yes.
And we've got a little downstairs as well. And we have this lounge. And so the lounge is like the coffin.
Yes.
And with a blanket over the top. And so the person who was dead lay there, fully covered. And then each of the kids said, and we said what we wanted to say to them, what we thought about them, what their giftings were, funny things, things that annoyed the shit out of us about them, but also, what we saw in them and what really spoke to our hearts about that person. And the kids were crying.
Yes.
I think they underestimated, and we were like, wow, this is like, everyone should do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you guys were sharing and speaking about each other, were there similar things that were being brought through for what you saw because you were seeing what was in
Yeah.
yourself?
Yes, and what it did, I think, for the person that was lying down was it actually just realised how loved they were.
How did it feel for yourself to receive in that moment?
Very
Curious.
touching.
Yes.
And especially, I think, whether it's your kids or it doesn't matter who, but to actually hear how people, what their eyes see or what they feel when you're in their presence. It's so powerful, and almost like it's validation that you're doing it right.
Yeah. It's present reflection and acknowledgement again.
Yeah.
I feel that's a beautiful ceremony.
It's such a beautiful
Because we've actually done it. We didn't actually do the lay down, but we wrote each other eulogies.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wrote a poem for my eulogy.
Yeah, a poem, so that I...
Yes.
So
But
you did one for Hermes?
No, I did one for myself.
For yourself,
And he did one
wow.
for himself.
So that's
Yeah.
even taking it to another level. Because, we didn't do it for ourselves. We did it for...
Yeah, for each other.
Yes.
Yeah. But we should actually do it in that
we
way.
should.
I think it'd be
That'd
very
be
powerful.
very cool. Yeah.
And I should do it your way.
Yeah.
Right, my own eulogy.
Yeah, it was
love
beautiful. We recently had like a couples retreat, and one of the questions, because like we were in like a circle asking like questions to get people to be vulnerable and share. And it was quite beautiful because Hermes asked all the couples, like, if you could say something at your partner's eulogy, what would it be? And it was quite beautiful because we got to share our eulogy out loud. So it was like there's all those aspects of me that would be at my funeral. I got to hear myself be in awe of that and witness that.
It was very powerful.
So powerful.
Yeah, that was right before we asked Rashi to come on the podcast.
Yeah, that
as
was.
well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was.
Literally
there you go.
a week before. But we found it very powerful.
Very.
And Rekiah asked you before, she said, what did it feel like to receive in the moment?
Yes.
We found that the being vulnerable part, even for couples that have been together for 30, 40 years at that point, it's still slightly uncomfortable to be able to open up and have the will to receive.
I agree.
Something
Why is
like
that,
that.
do you think? Why do we find it hard to actually hear, almost like, I know when some of the kids were talking about me in the eulogy was just the depth of love. Why do we find that hard to actually, that is who we are?
I would say, and tell me what you guys feel about it. But potentially because we sit with that human condition.
Yes.
I just don't love myself and I
and
don't know why. So then when someone else sees something so great in you, it's like, really?
Really? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
What do you feel?
Yeah, I feel it's quite similar. And I feel too, because it's like, for example, yourself and Alex, that's the closest you're ever going to get to knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Because of the ritual you've created within that relationship. So it's like, for example, myself and Hermes last night, we had some beautiful conversations. And it was cool because I asked him a question and he responded and he showed me a different way to view something.
Love it.
Potentially like a blind spot.
Yeah.
But after acknowledging that, I understood a deeper aspect of myself. And that can be scary. But it's going into that because, like we say, fear, another acronym. We say that fear stands for false expectations appearing real.
Yeah.
So it's like
We got all of them.
yeah, we've got all of them. So it's like by going into that, you then drop the R being restriction, then you can go as far as you want to.
Yeah. Such freedom.
Yeah, it's freedom.
Gives you
That's
liberation,
sovereignty.
yeah.
Yeah, sovereignty. Yeah.
Because not only do you see and hear yourself, but the other individual sees and hears you. Because
And
you
that's
are on that
powerful.
same frequency. And that's embodiment.
And that's where then love comes through.
Yeah.
It's like when I was reading your questions as well, the common denominator really was finding love in all things,
And I love to like when in the questionnaire as well, when we spoke about who was your first true love, you chose God and source.
Yeah.
And I find that so fascinating because other individuals would go to like a mum or a dad, or someone would go to it was themselves. So I'd love for you to share about how that came about too, because that's such a beautiful embodiment of that eulogy as well.
Yeah.
I was literally going to ask that.
You
I bet
asked
you
the
to
same question. Yeah.
We studied your
It
questions,
was,
Rashi.
yeah, very good. I have to say, I love the way you just it just rolls in very naturally. I did think about the question, when, I came across it, and yeah, you're right. The first thing is, maybe it was my first love, maybe it was my mum, my dad, my siblings, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I really sat with it, and I thought, you know what? That purity of the divine love was what I class as love.
Yes.
Like there's all different forms of love, right? And again, mum, dad, partner, they're human, right? We fail, we make mistakes.
Yes.
And that's part of our humanity, and it's beautiful. Yet the divine love, and for me, I'm very much I feel it.
Yes.
So sometimes it's hard for me to put into words, but when I felt and when I feel the purity of source and divine love, God, whatever word you want to call it, and I'm closing my eyes because I can feel it right now, is there is no question.
Yes.
It's just in such a pure form, and you know that you're going to be held.
Do you feel that's
regardless.
resting in the present?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's resting in the present and knowing that, or trusting that,
That it has your back.
Yes.
right, no matter what, I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
And it's that love that confirms that I'm going to be okay.
No,
It's like the greatest trust, isn't it? It's like that love has resolved all paradoxes.
Yes.
You know,
and that can show as an abandonment to like what we spoke about earlier
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. So then you can say, then I'm asking, is that how you found safety? By connecting to that love, divinity, that
Always.
source?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always, even now.
Yes.
Even now, I know what to do when I feel unsafe or when I feel overwhelmed or when I'm going into, going into that zone of that if I don't do something right now, I'm going to go into complete red zone anxiety, overwhelm. It's like just connecting. And for me, connecting is stillness,
Yes.
space,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like slowing yourself down,
slowing down.
Coming
coming
back
back
to
to the
breath.
breath,
Yeah.
drinking water,
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah.
But and thank you for sharing. That was very beautiful. And I agree with you. It's like having these kinds of conversations as well. You become very aware of the divinity here now.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So it's a good place to be.
Yes.
But it's like we had a breathwork session this morning with
Yes. Maverick.
And yes, everyone, Mav's doing breathwork now. It's an ad.
Hit up Encompass.
But we were doing holotropic breath work, and my intention was to, I didn't really set an intention. I also had a mantra, so to speak, that I was going into. And I said to myself, I am here now and I am loving awareness. And then what I found was the more I went into the breath work and you've done it before, that the energy started to rise and it went through my toes all the way up to my head, and I started to go into a little bit of a journey. I found myself in a bit of a journey, as you know, the DMT that naturally goes through your system, and it awakens that third eye or that foresight. Some call it imagination, I call it spiritual connection. Where I found myself standing in front of this mirror, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, not realizing at first that I'm looking into the face of divinity.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I put my hand up against this mirror, and it's like holding it. And I say to myself, I trust. Because same thing that you're talking about.
Yes.
I trust. And the hand on the other side of the mirror folded through, and it went into my hand. And when I looked, all I saw was an infinity of faces. And then the thing went, okay, are you ready? Trust. And it went like this, doof, and the singularity happened.
Yes.
And then that's where we find ourselves now. So we just rest in peace with deep love.
Yes.
Cool stories, right?
That's
Very
really
cool.
good.
I like
love
this.
that.
Yeah. Cool sharing.
But the same as yours,
Yeah.
So then that's the ultimate resting in peace. And then
Yes.
from that space, we serve.
Yes.
Yes.
Because what else
What
are
a
we?
beautiful space to serve from.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
What else would you want to do with your time?
Serve.
I mean, you learn, you get to know yourself
Yes.
more, and then you spend time with your community while still taking care of yourself. And then all in turn, you're building a legacy to leave
Yes.
behind,
Yeah.
which I suppose is what you're doing with everything that you're doing.
Yeah, and I think you can, whether you have a community like ours and you guys have got a community, I think that essence of that love and service, well, for me, I do my best to take it whatever I'm doing.
Yes.
So when I'm in pharmacy,
Yes.
it's still the same embodiment of the piece of the divinity
Yes.
and bringing love and service. When I'm having a conversation, with somebody in the grocery store, we take it wherever. It's not just like I'm with my community. I'm on my yoga mat. I'm about to teach yoga.
Everywhere.
I'm now in this zone. It's actually it's everywhere because divinity is everywhere, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in all things,
Yes.
everywhere, all at once.
Yeah.
It's what are they? Omnipresent, omnipotent, and
Omnipresent.
omniscient.
Yeah.
Everywhere, all at once, knows everything and can do everything. So it would have to be me. It would have to be you. It would have to be Reki. So that would mean that we are like one being.
Yes.
Which then brings compassion to everyone, right? Because then there's when you come from that stance, it's very or it's harder then to judge people because how dare we judge if there's divinity in that person, no matter what they've done, no matter what their standards are, no matter, their social status, financial status, religion, we are one.
Yes.
That's it. And it doesn't matter what shape or form it takes.
Yes, or substance.
It's all love.
Yeah.
So then what? We just let go of conditioning,
Yeah.
It's one thing to say that,
Yes.
Yes. And one thing to action it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you're like, okay, I let go of condition
Yes.
of, let's say, judging the person.
Which is
or
judging myself.
Judging yourself. At the end of the day, what comes out of your mouth is for yourself, at the end of the day. So but when it then happens, all we do is we acknowledge it.
Yes.
But still we bring through the example of what it is we want to see. And that's then compassion.
That's polarization.
That's empathy.
Yes.
It is, yeah, because we're human. Like we have to acknowledge that we're here on this earth as humans. So we are going to, not be at times in that purity of the divine. We're going to stuff up. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to make judgments. I'm going to, at times speak or react in anger to my husband.
Yes.
But yes, it's the acknowledgement of it. And then I always say, take responsibility for what's yours. So if I have to apologise or if I have to make something right, then I will do that. But I won't take on what is not mine.
I agree.
That's kind of yours. And then I have a ritual which, doesn't happen often, but I do lose my shit and have to apologise sometimes. And usually when I haven't looked after myself, right?
Yes.
When I've,
The cup's running low.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have a ritual where I will take responsibility and I'll do what I need to do with the other person if there's another person involved to make it right. But then we can go into shame and we can beat ourselves up about it and we can loop about it.
Flagellation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that. I sit and I say, and I'll have a journal in front of me and I will say, I forgive myself for, and I'll keep on going until I forgiven myself for whatever I need to forgive myself for. Not as a means of beating myself up, but almost just acknowledging, I did that and now I forgive myself. And then I choose. And then
Yes.
write
And
down what it
so then
is.
you redirect your focus.
Yes.
Alchemize.
Because then where attention goes, my energy will
Yeah.
flow. I'm curious, have you heard of the Hawaiian?
Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
it.
I love it. Yeah.
It's so good.
It's such
So-
a good concept.
I love you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please. No.
Please forgive me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love you. Please forgive
Can't remember which way it goes.
me. Neither can I right now.
It's something like that.
Yeah, the
But it's very
four.
powerful.
They're using it in prisons now.
Oh, really?
Actually using it in prisons as a therapy. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Because it really brings, we were talking about gut, heart, and brain
Brain
coherence
Yeah.
before as well. Really brings that into tune, doesn't it? Because you're emotion wherever in the
Yes.
body it's
Yeah,
sitting.
it's like you step out of the way, which is decision. Therefore, you go into direction, intuition, which is the same thing as
Get out
gut.
of the mind,
Yeah, you
go
get out of
into
the
the
mind.
heart,
Yeah, it's the
acknowledge the
same
emotion.
thing as the gut, brain, and heart coherence.
I'm curious, when we come to the yoga, in the morning, when we get
I'm
there,
curious
you always have a little something that you talk about.
know.
No one,
and it's always perfectly
I
aligned.
know everyone thinks that everyone thinks that, have you got a camera in my house? Do you know what's been going on?
Is there like a certain ritual that you do
Yeah.
for that to unfold?
Oh, for the philosophy
Yeah.
to come through.
intuition.
Intuition.
Yeah. And funnily, not funnily, never a coincidence. Sometimes it's something that I've actually worked through myself, and then it's no coincidence that actually now I've worked through it and sharing it, there's someone that it's speaking to.
Do you feel that we're all working on the same thing at the same time?
It seems to be, because usually I have, a few people come up saying, "How did you know?"
Yes.
No, I didn't. But thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
I think sometimes there is a collective energy,
Yeah.
or a collective emotion, or a collective something that people are working through.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
it's like the divinity in all things. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the love.
Yeah.
And then that love can create, this is my take on it, you
Yeah.
know, but it can create like cosmic filters.
Yes.
So in
that's what
other
we call
words,
them.
it's where everyone goes through a certain, what would be a different word for symptom? You know, they will go through a
a
teaching,
narrative, you could
a
say.
narrative,
Yeah.
a story, a teaching,
Yeah.
frustration, you
Yes.
know, or whatever it might be,
Yes.
you know. But we all go through it and then pop through. So then you
Yeah.
feel, what do? You just feel into it.
I feel into it. I listen to it. I will do research as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will do explore the topic a little bit more.
Yes.
And then, so I don't actually design. So I have the philosophy written, and they're the nuggets that I'll drop in.
Yes.
The actual physical part, I just intuit. So I don't.
Amazing.
So
I
the
love
physical-
that.
And in
flow.
regards to philosophy, because it's a new teaching to myself, but it's called the nadis.
No.
Okay, how do
The
you pronounce
nadis
it?
are the little channels. So breath work.
Yes.
And you guys all learn this in teacher training. But
Yes.
the nadis with, and again, it's metaphysical. So the thought is that we have 72,000 nadis,
Wow.
which are, I see them as little veins and capillaries.
Okay,
That's how
cool.
I see them, but they're little channels.
So they're linked to the central nervous system.
Yeah. So if they're blocked for whatever reason, emotion or trauma, then we're not in optimum health. But if they're all
Yes.
channels are, clear, then we are functioning.
Yes.
We're in harmony.
So almost like the when we once again talk about the central nervous system.
Yeah.
So they might be aspects, if they're blocked or out of whack or unregulated, will be in a sympathetic state.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
unregulated.
Unregulated, yeah.
But then once we actually give attention and care to it, it's almost like the greatest principle.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
it's like anything we nurture and give care to, it tends to flourish.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know,
blossom and
Yeah.
bloom.
That's
I
it.
mean, I guess it's different. Nadis is the Sanskrit, and I guess we use that a lot in yoga. But then, acupuncture will work on your meridian lines,
Yes.
and I'm trying to think of other modalities that.
yeah, like acupuncture.
Yes.
Chinese medicine,
Chinese
they'll
medicine.
work on other. So it's just different language, but we're all really talking about the same
Same
thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? Okay, so you know how we did research recently after reading Rashi's
Oh,
questions?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The Yamas and
Okay.
Niyamas.
So when you're writing the intention
Yeah.
for the yoga, do you utilize those principles throughout?
So the Yamas and Niyamas I utilize.
Can you explain what they are as well? for the
Yeah,
audience?
sure.
Thank
So
you.
I like to call them like 10 commandments. So
Okay.
they are morals and ethics to live your life by, not just for yourself, but values that you then can treat other people in the universe and the world around you.
Yes.
So, for example, the first one of the Yamas and Niyamas is ahimsa, which means to do no harm.
Okay.
So I guess the obvious one is, to do no harm, physical violence. But we're not
Yes.
just talking about, we're talking about how we speak to ourselves. Is it in a violent way? How you speak to others, So the philosophies or the Yamas and Niyamas are a set of values that I use in everything that I do. So, one of them is purity, satcha is purity. Am I pure in my thoughts? Am I pure in the way that I look after my body? Am I pure in my intention of when I post something on Facebook, am I looking for validation and likes, or actually do I want to share this wisdom because if I help one person, that's enough. And if I don't get any hits, that's still enough.
Yes.
Is that pure,
Yes.
So
I love it.
yeah. And when I do my class is what's my intention behind this? I'm not here on the mat to big note myself. I'm not here on the mat for people to come up and say, oh, that was fantastic, Rashi. If they do, it's nice. I'll take it.
Yes.
If everybody walked out of the class and said, you know what, that was a shit class. What was she on about? I just know that for me, I've done the best that I have done with the guidance of the divine, and then that's enough.
So if I can just repeat it back, in the way that I understand it. So it's almost like a set of structures.
Yes.
So it's your foundation.
It's the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
It's similar to what we were speaking about earlier, just in a different way.
So it's what you come back to, in other words, because it's one thing to flow, and it's beautiful to flow and just let go and so forth. But if we just flow and we don't have a direction with, guidelines, rules of engagement to follow, then it's open for the whole world, or any energy. So then you come back to those. For us, for instance, we actually do a very similar thing.
Yes.
It's actually curious. Everyone's really doing the same thing.
Same thing. That's what I'm saying.
names.
They're just changing the words.
Yeah, it is literally.
Because we call ours virtues
Yes.
or values.
Yes.
So
values.
westernized.
Yeah.
So we have 4,
Yes.
which we see as our structure. And the first one is prudence,
Being prudent in your dealings.
Yeah, prudent in your dealings. Let's say if I was to give it a little bit more definition, it's your self-talk.
Yes.
That's like how you said,
ahimsa,
It's the
That's
mental image.
non-violent communication to yourself and other,
Yes.
And by having true and authentic, that's also what prudence stands for us at least. True and authentic, so pure. I'm just using yours as well.
The same thing.
A communication with yourself and others. From there, we build a common language. So we can actually, it's like us here today. So we have a common language, we hear each other, and from there we build a common unity. And that's what we see as community, which is the core of everything we're after.
Yes.
Then we have justice, which for us is very symbolic of
self-care.
Self-care.
Yeah.
What we said before, it's like, we all actually sit with the same thing as a lack of self-love.
Yes. And we say that like the antidote for self-care is self-love, which is self-love regulation.
Yeah, the
which is
antidote
the
for
SLR.
self-love is self-care.
Yeah.
Which is SLR.
Yeah, which is SLR.
Self-love regulation.
Did I swap around?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you.
But then it's really filling your heart so much
Yes.
so that it overflows into the lives of others.
Yeah.
Then we have fortitude, which, to keep it really short and simple, for us is the combination of prudence and justice.
Yes.
It's the having the courage and the will to stand up in the face of fear, which is a constant,
Yes.
isn't it? It comes up
Yeah, multiple times.
and it forever will, no matter how awake we get. Divinity, awesome. We still need to come back into the game to get to know ourselves.
Yeah.
And we find the last one is temperance. And the way that we see temperance is it is that ebb and the flow.
It's
that
a
I was
healthy
talking
heartbeat.
about. It's a healthy heartbeat.
Yeah.
We're born into this life. What came before this, we don't really know. Some believe in reincarnation. I veer towards it's whatever you want it to be. What comes after this, also don't know.
Yeah.
But
and it just doesn't dissipate. So something must happen.
energy can't dissipate.
Yeah.
So there must be something. Different
Yeah.
shape, form, or whatever it might
Yes.
be. But then we come back into the here and the now, and we really say, let's keep temperance in mind. What are we really in control of but to feel our emotion?
Yes.
The rest of life it just happens.
Yeah,
doesn't
it
it?
happens.
You've got
for
no
us.
control.
Yeah. It's like that Pinterest quote. I always make this joke. I saw a Pinterest quote 2-3 years ago now, and it said, relax, nothing's under control.
Yeah, so true. Yet we think we are in control, but we are so not in control.
Yes.
And I think I love those 4 virtues or values is then similar with the Yamas and Niyamas.
Very similar.
Yeah, I take it into everything that I do. So spirituality, business, family, relationships, friends, wealth,
Yes.
is that they are my guidelines.
Yes.
And so, and I think I shared that I check in every 6 months just to make sure.
Yeah, I saw that in
I'm
your
on-
question.
Yeah, I used to do it every month when I first started, but now I can kind of 6 months.
What do you do for that check-in for yourself?
So,
every
for
6
example,
months?
if people ask me, do you want to do this? Do you want to go here? Do you want to do this event? Do I want to do this workshop? Is it in alignment to my
Yes.
values fully? And even if somebody offers me $1 million and it's not in alignment, I won't
Yes.
take it.
Yes.
If it's not pure, I don't want it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I
it's
love
a good
that.
check.
Yeah.
Because, we can get tempted and, we can do something that will, give us kudos or we'll get our face out there. But actually, if it's not in alignment, then why am I doing it? It's not in alignment with my values.
Yes.
I agree. And then if you feel it and it's no, to be able to say, no, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and I see like your guidelines is also an aspect of your boundaries.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so good because
Yeah.
it helps you actually say no.
Yeah, I agree.
It
Yeah.
becomes like a compass.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
gnosis.
Oh. Did we want to go on the second infinite?
Of course. So the second infinite question, which is in the questionnaire booklet as well, so it's like if you could go back in time and give an item to your childhood self and a phrase. So I know that the item you chose was a mirror because of the reflection. And I'd love for you to share about that too, because it's so fascinating because of how we're flowing here to like today in this conversation. It's like even with the eulogy that you spoke about earlier, that really was the reflection of that mirror. Cool.
Yes, I did think about that question a lot, and a few things came up, and then it was just I sat with it. And I thought, and again, hindsight, right? Because when I looked back on my life, and I guess if I could tell whatever younger versions of me, as I went through life, and especially the challenging times, what if I could embody in her that actually you've got everything you need, you don't need anyone or anything, that everything that you need is within you
Yes.
because you've got a connection to,
Divinity.
Yes. And that's all we need, right?
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
How come you chose a mirror?
How come I chose a mirror?
Yeah.
It's crazy
'Cause if
because
you-
I had that in my breath work today.
Oh, did you? Oh, yes, the mirror. Yeah.
Yes. I know. All the things are
Yeah.
synchronicities.
So the mirror, because to remind myself that actually
It's
you've
all
got
within.
that's all you need. And also that there's a saying which says if you want to, because it comes back to self-love again. And once I
Yes.
think we embody the self-love, everything then flows from there.
Yes.
I
What
agree.
becomes easy is what's that? It's a quote. It says something like, if you want to meet the love of your life, just look in the mirror.
Yes. Yeah, I hear you. That's beautiful. Would there be a moment in the epigenetics when you looked in the mirror and that was you giving the mirror?
When I realized that
Yes.
it was just me that I needed.
Yes.
Not until you asked me that question.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Not until you asked me that question did I actually put the analogy of the mirror,
Yes.
as in like
bless.
all I need is
Okay, cool.
is actually that.
Would there be like a time in epigenetics when you would give it to a certain age of your journey, or would it be something that they came
Right.
across themselves? How? Because obviously you are it now.
Yes.
So-
So the point where it switched for me that I was
Yes.
actually confident in.
Yes.
Yeah, it was not until my 40s.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Are you over 40?
I'm 53.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
I didn't even guess it.
You don't
I was
look
you look 28.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. No, yeah, I didn't start my healing journey till later on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had years, which is why I'm so passionate about actually, in the right language, for children to start to embrace so that they have the modalities and the tools. And yes, it has to be, with the right language so that it's relevant to them.
Yes.
But yeah, like I had 40 years of stuff I had to work through, which is harder than, like maybe 10 years of stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. There's so much to have gone through. But look at you then. You've gone from strength to strength to strength. So
I feel strong, yeah.
a decade. And you've completely turned your life around.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is inspiring, isn't it, for anybody that thinks
Of
it's
course.
too late?
Yeah.
Like, because some people think it's never too late. It's never too late to start.
It's like there's a gentleman we're working with at the moment. He is 63.
63.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just started his healing journey a year ago.
Yes.
And he's completely changed his life.
Yes.
He's walking Australia. So
And that's how he regulates his emotions.
So he regulates by walking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So he's getting in tune with where in the body is it. And what does he say? He said that since he started the work a year ago, so his life's completely flipped upside down. He's left the work that he was doing.
Yes.
He's found new purpose.
He's doing training with
people
us.
now, doing training with us. And I would say above all else, he started to find purpose in life, which is himself.
Yes.
It just comes back to love again with like your questions, doesn't
Yes.
it? It's all about that, filling your cup.
Yes.
And I was curious, should we start to move into that final question as well?
Of course. Yeah, I agree.
Because I think we are getting up there with the time.
I agree. Then Rashi can get to her next
I don't want to
place.
stop the podcast.
It
I feel
feels
like we just
I don't know how long we've
started.
been talking, but
I know.
So an hour and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's quick, right?
It's gone quick.
It has,
It's just
hasn't
like
it?
we are having a chat.
I feel you can ask the last one because I've done the two of them today.
Okay, the last question. Okay, beautiful. So I just want to say thank you for having come on the podcast today.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
We're trying to keep it at about an hour and 30 minutes because
Yes.
otherwise it's too long.
Yes.
It's hard,
We've
isn't
had
it?
some that have been for like 2.5.
Maybe we should do another one at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I feel
Part
like
two.
yeah
Yeah.
I agree because like I feel like today we went into the questions, but there's so much more to unpack in those questions.
So much more, and it's curious because I feel like we just started.
I know.
You can see why, for instance, like a Joe Rogan does 6-7
Yeah.
hours sometimes with these podcasts, but it's a bit long. But let's say with the final question, for us as an embodiment of not only the podcast here today or this episode, but also your life and your entire being. And the question is, if you could leave the viewers, the people watching, with a golden nugget, a piece of wisdom to embody for themselves, what would that be that you could leave for that person? So for you, for yourself, you said the mirror,
Yes.
right? But a piece of guidance in terms of direction,
Yes.
knowledge of the heart,
No. sis.
whatever it might be for you.
Can't even remember. Was that a question? Did I answer it?
No, that one's not a
I was
question.
going to say,
No, that's not a question.
No. So I would say
Yeah,
a
okay,
good way
good,
to look at
yeah.
it is to encapsulate the teaching of your life.
Yes.
Hence the
Eulogy.
podcast is called Unveiling Lives.
Yes.
Right. So the first thing that comes to mind, which is probably pretty like spot on to the answer, is we have a mantra that our family adopts, which is actually our business name, which is Judge Little, Love Lots.
Yes.
And I think if I were to leave a nugget, there's many nuggets that I'd love to leave of wisdom, but I think those 4 words you can apply to anyone and anything. And I think the ripple effect of the Judge Little, Love Lots, it's something that we've had to remind ourselves
Yes.
many times.
It's like love tightly but loosely.
Yeah, hold.
Yeah.
Was it love deeply, hold loosely?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great one.
How did that mantra come about?
Judge Little, Love Lots.
Yes.
I think, our family is probably not your normal family.
Yes.
I guess we don't conform.
Which is a freaking great
Freaking
thing.
awesome.
Which,
Can I be part of your family, Randy?
Please do, yeah. And, family is family. You are part of our
Yes.
family, but I'm talking about biological family. And I think you have to be a very special person. Like I think about, my children that, having partners, to adopt our family, because we do a lot of work, service work, right?
Yes.
And money is not a motivator for us in any way at all. And I think sometimes, you know, when you live a life that isn't, I guess, part of the norm, you do get judged.
Yes.
And that's okay, you
Yes.
know. And I think for us, our agenda, if you want to have an agenda, we say we don't have an agenda, but there's always an agenda, right? Is the farm, which you guys have been to, adopts that. We wanted it to be a place where anyone could come.
Yes.
There was
the safety.
Right. There was no agenda. I mean, we started with the kettle, right? And so that's how the mantra came about, was that we are going to love whoever walks through that gate, no matter what.
Yeah.
And even if our humanity gets in the way of that judgment, that mantra will remind us, judge little, love lots.
It's the unconditional love, hey?
It's the unconditional love. And the Starfish story, have you heard of that one? The philosophy where for us it's not about massive numbers, even though we have got a big community, but I won't go into it because of time, but the Starfish philosophy, there's a whole story.
Take your time. You can go
take
through
your
it.
time. Yeah.
It's a famous story.
Tell us.
But it's so it goes something like there's a little boy that's walking along the beach, along the shoreline, and he sees starfish and he throws them in one by one. He's picking them up and throwing them in the water. And then another man is behind him and he sees this young boy throwing, you know, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, I'm throwing the starfish back in the water so that, you know, they don't die, right? So that they get..." And the man goes, "But the whole shoreline, there's millions and hundreds and thousands of starfish." He said, "You're not going to help them all." And he picks the one up and he goes, "But I've helped that one." And so the ripple effect of you help one, you're actually helping many, because whatever you impart on them is just going to ripple out.
That's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
wow. That's a beautiful
Wow.
story.
Yeah.
That's literally what we stand for.
Exactly.
As well.
Yeah.
You know,
Starfish, baby.
Yeah.
Call me starfish.
Call me starfish.
Yeah.
So just to help that one person, you know.
Doesn't matter. Numbers doesn't matter. You know, I teach my yoga students, you have one person in a class, you teach as though you've got 100, because you'll never know the impact that one person.
Yeah. And just look at Stretch and Flow, the starfish that you've created.
So many starfish.
It's absolutely incredible. I know. It's cool, hey?
I love it. I love it. Okay, beautiful. If someone wanted to find you,
Yeah, and tell us about your yoga teacher training.
Yes, please. We've got space.
Yeah.
April 2025 we start. If someone wanted to find us, how do they find us?
Yeah.
So we have a website, www.judgelittlelelovelots.com. We have Facebook pages, Stretch and Flow, and we have the farm, which is Sattler Road, Virgin Plains, and Instagram, and we have all of that. But yeah, I guess that's how you find me.
Beautiful. I love it.
Or talk to these guys.
Yeah, and we will put your details in the description
Thank you.
of the video as well.
Yes.
But once again, thank you for coming on.
Thank
today.
you so much.
It's been so much fun.
It's been
Yeah.
so fun.
I
love
reckon
it.
we do another one if you're up for it.
I'm up for it.
Hell
I've
yeah.
got a taste of it now.
Maybe after you get back from your Christmas trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going away for a month.
After you go to India,
Correct.
We're off for a month, yeah.
Yes.
We're
So you're not going away? Just
not going away for
relaxing.
a month, but we will be going overseas for part of that. But yes, but
India.
we're closing everything down from that.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
okay,
well, let's
beautiful.
organise it for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, put our hands in. Ready?
Okay, take it away.
3, 2, 1. Oh.
Oh.